Next. So these are the 6 pillars that I'm going to be touching on today. I think I'll skip sleep because that's another lecture coming up and there's so much material. But nutrition, physical activity or inactivity, disrupted sleep, chronic stress, social isolation, tobacco and alcohol exposure. These are the big lifestyle behaviors that drive chronic disease. Next. So in the past, we had completely different lifestyle. This was just a few decades ago. Here's Albert Einstein on his bike. He rode his bike a lot, and that's where he came up with his theory of relativity on his bike. We had excellent produce, and it wasn't always available. Sometimes you didn't have food around you constantly. Your parents told you to eat 3 meals a day, and if you wanted a snack, they said no, it'll ruin your dinner. Remember those days? Nowadays, we're just grazing and eating all day long. Kids were outdoors, they were slender, they were exercising. This is how it was when I was a kid. Next. Nowadays, we've got kids drinking diet soda. They've got more weight on them than we wish. Ultra-processed foods are killing us, and they're everywhere. They're in the center aisle of your grocery store. They're at your fast food chains. They taste good. They're addictive. We call them hyper-palatable. We just can't get enough. They don't fill you up. We just keep going. They're inexpensive, which makes them appealing to people that don't have a lot of money. They're shelf-stable, and they have a long list of ingredients, most of which we can't pronounce and we don't know what they are. These are driving the illness in our country right now. And so we've got this high rate of obesity that I already mentioned, and here's a typical young man sitting in his parents' basement with his clicker, watching a movie, isolated socially, not getting out there, sedentary, and we're getting more and more of these kind of young men in our country. There's a lot written about that right now, actually. These are the kind of guys who won't be joining the military. I think we kind of need that, don't we? We need to have a robust military. And we're exercising our pets, but not ourselves. Next. So let's talk a little bit about lifestyle medicine and what it focuses on. It focuses on behaviors. So we know that our lifestyle choices determine our health outcomes. We've sort of outlined that. So lifestyle medicine is rooted in behavior change science. It's nothing quick about it. It takes some months to see real change. It's evidence-based, so it's not alternative and weird, and it can reverse and prevent certain chronic diseases. And it complements Western medicine. It doesn't compete with it, it complements it. And you can have pieces of each in your practice. So, and lifestyle medicine doctors write prescriptions. They, so it may not be for metformin or insulin, but they will write for how much exercise to get. They might say, walk after lunch for 10 minutes, 5 days next week. That would be a lifestyle medicine prescription. Drink 1 less Diet Coke a day for the next 10 days. These are the kind of things one can actually specifically incorporate into your lifestyle that are actionable and realistic. Those are just 2 examples. So these are the 6 pillars: healthful eating, physical activity, stress management, relationship management, sleep improvement, and avoidance of risky substances. Next. So let's talk about eating first. This is huge, obviously. We've kind of touched on that. Next. So this is an example of an outstanding type of diet. It's largely plant-based. It's very colorful, so there's a lot of phytonutrients. It has diversity. You've got your superfoods, your blueberries, your pomegranates. You've got nuts, which are healthy fats and fiber. You've got turmeric, antioxidant, healthy fat here in the avocado, fiber in these vegetables. It's just outstanding. So this is where we really want to be focusing. All right, macronutrients, what are they? Well, there's 3 of them: protein, carbohydrates, and fat. So protein is a modest caloric macronutrient, 4 calories per gram. These are the amino acids that we take in. These are the building blocks of our tissues and muscle. Our bone, our muscle, our skin, our hair. This is all protein. It makes our organs, makes enzymes. So super important thing to have in our bodies. And it's essential. Carbohydrates, 4 calories per gram, composed of starch, fiber, and sugar. You can see there's a variety here. Fruits and vegetables are carbohydrates, by the way, and they're the main source of energy for the body. The brain loves glucose, and it's going to be a very popular and desired energy source for the body. But carbohydrates are not essential. We can actually live without them. If we did not have a carbohydrate in our life, which I don't recommend, we could live. So they're not essential. Fat, high calorie, 9 calories per gram. Fatty acids. Fatty acids are really important. They make membranes. All our cell membranes. Most of our brain is fat. Hormones. I mean, fat is super important. And it's an energy source too. I don't know if you've heard of ketones. Ketones are a type of fat that can be released and feed the body in place of glucose. So there's ketosis, which produces ketones, and there's glyconeogenesis, or breakdown of glycogen, which produces glucose. And they compete for who's in charge of providing energy. It's called metabolic flexibility that you can achieve with certain diets. Next. Okay, protein sources. Well, there's the big debate, plant versus animal. And you've got people in both camps. You've got your vegetarians who are adamant about plants. Your vegans are morally against eating animal products of all kinds. So this is an important group. And then you have your animal camp that eats meat and a diverse diet. So the plants are great because they have diverse minerals and phytonutrients, which are healthy. They're low in fat. They're high in fiber, so they help the GI tract, and they don't have any cholesterol in them at all, so they're very, very healthy. However, if you really want good protein amino acid content, you go for meat. They're complete amino acid content. So they've got leucine. Leucine is not something you find in anything but meat, unless you take it as a supplement. They have creatine. Creatine is a supplement that many of us take to enhance muscle function. It's found in meat, poultry, fish, eggs. So our body can take it that way too. You don't have to take it as a supplement. Vitamin B12 and iron are deficiencies you're going to see in the plant-based diet. So those have to be supplemented if you're not eating any animal fat. And they're loaded with protein. So a hunk of meat, size of your palm, has at least 25, 30 grams of protein. It's an amazing source of protein. Next. So how much protein should you take? This is all the rage in the news right now. How much protein should you eat? Well, since you're thinking in pounds, I'm guessing, and some of you here might be thinking in kilos like I do, but many of us think in pounds. 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of goal weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds and you want to weigh 150, take your 150 as your goal weight, okay? Because you could be huge and just keep eating protein that's unrealistic. But this is about how much protein you want. So if we're going back to the kilos, which is where I'm more comfortable and where most of the literature sits, your sedentary adult, these are the recommended daily allowances of 0.8 grams per kilo, puts you, if you're a 150-pound adult, at about 55 grams a day. That is not enough. These RDA requirements were established during World War II. They're really inadequate. They're just for deficiency prevention, not optimization. So let's just throw that one right out. General fitness, we're increasing to 1 to 1.2 grams per kilo, about this range of protein per day. And if you're like some of you, like me, who go to the gym and try to lift some weights, etc., we're strength training, we're trying to maintain, if not grow our muscle, we're going higher, 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilo. So for someone like me, I'm aiming for about 100 grams of protein a day. That's my goal. Yes?
So in terms of like protein intake, that's so many grams, like as you just mentioned, like a slab of meat is like 25. Like it's something that I struggle with. I was in huge, just kidding. But is like how you actually eat 125 grams of protein.
We're gonna
a day.
talk
Like,
about that.
sustainably, because you can't drink the protein shakes. Well, you could, but they're not the best. It's like
This is
all
a
convoluted.
great question, and it's my next slide.
Lay up.
I can't wait. So, and those of us who are a little older, I'm 68, if you're heading into that older range, we enter a phase in our bodies called anabolic resistance. That means we can't make muscle out of protein the way young people can. A young person can do a modest amount of something and they're bulking right up, but we can't do that. We have to work harder and smarter. So we have to take more protein and do plenty of resistance training. So again, this puts me in the 100-gram a day camp. Do I always make it? Of course not. But I don't make anything all the time. But this is my goal, right? Now, if you're a high-intensity training athlete who's pumping iron, big weights on a regular basis, or you're going in for huge weight loss, this is a strategy for huge weight loss. Eat tons of protein and green salad. It's amazing what that will do. These people are pushing it and really going high on the protein. I have a colleague who's taking 150 grams of protein a day, as he's already lost 25 pounds on this really rigorous calorie counting, high exercise regimen. That's a lot, but it can be done. So, any questions about this goal? Next. So, we want to aim for 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal. And we call this protein pacing. We're not going for the big steak dinner and getting 90 grams for one meal at this size of the steak. We are pacing ourselves. And the reason is we can't store amino acids. We can store glucose in the form of glycogen in our liver and in our muscles. Muscles drink it right up, but we can't store amino acids. So we have to take them periodically during the day to keep them feeding the important building blocks. So, and we might even go to 30 to 40 grams per meal. And we're spreading them evenly. So the first meal of the day, breakfast, breaking the fast. Breakfast. Make it a good one. Put in 30 grams of protein in that meal. Next. So how are we going to do that? Well, we've talked about lean meat. So a hand, a fist or palm size, lean chicken, lean meat, fish. Those are all going to give you like 25-ish grams of protein right there. So you could have a salad or some sort of grain bowl and put a slab of meat on there or a salmon, and boom, there you are. You got it. So you may not be eating white bread with jam on it. That won't get you there, right? So you're eating differently. Canned sardines, canned chunk light tuna, over 20 grams for a little can like that. Easy to get, not expensive. Dairy products, cheese, milk, Greek yogurt is loaded. Cottage cheese loaded even more than Greek yogurt. Eggs are 6 to 8 grams of protein each. So if you're eating like a 3-egg omelet, boom, you're in the 20s, right? Legumes, so nothing like lentils and beans and peas. They're just loaded with protein. Whole grains, some of these ancient grains like farro and buckwheat and quinoa, loaded with protein. Nuts have also a lot of calories, so you have to be careful with nuts. If you eat more than a handful of nuts a day, you're putting on unnecessary fat calories. Seeds, and then these soy-based products. If you're a vegetarian type of person, soy milk has a lot of protein in it. Tofu, tempeh, edamame, these are all soy products that are loaded with protein. Next. So, a little bit about fat. Fat is important as an energy source, right? There's good fat and bad fat. We know it's high in calorie, but it's absolutely critical, and it usually is paired with a protein. Like if you have meat, it usually has fat in it. Oftentimes they're paired together. Next. So there's good fats and bad fats. The bad fats, I think we know a lot of time, they're like trans fats. So partially hydrogenated oil. If you see that on a label, run away. Partially hydrogenated. Don't eat that. And these trans fats, they've actually been outlawed in a lot of foods, but you can add a little bit and get away with it with the way they're tested. So you have to be careful. So donuts and bagels and cookies and French fries from McDonald's, they're so superb. Trans fats, yuck, don't eat them if you can avoid it. I know they're delicious, so, and we're not perfect, so we're gonna go there sometime. Butter is a solid, that's a relatively bad fat, but we'll see there's different thinking about that. The best fats, olive oil is king. So we know people in Greece, they put olive oil on everything on their plate. Olive oil is a very healthy oil. It's a polyunsaturated fat. So unsaturated, it's actually monounsaturated, excuse me. Monounsaturated fats are olive oil, olives, avocados. Think of the O sound, avocado, olive oil, super healthy fats. These others are good. This is a fatty salmon, I believe that's what that is. So you've heard of the smash fish? The smash fish have healthy omega-3 fats. They're salmon, mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring. They're kind of fatty fish, but it's good fat. And it's full of omega-3s that are good for the brain and the heart. And they're good and high in protein too. So lean meats have good fat. Coconut fat is modestly healthy in moderation. Next. So this is pretty much what I just said. Let's next. So carbohydrates. Let me just make this statement. Americans eat too many low-quality refined carbs, not enough fiber-rich complex carbs, period. This is our society right now. What are the good ones? Well, we've got great vegetables. Here's some sweet potatoes, whole wheat bread. Be careful, it's got to be a whole wheat, not a multi-grain kind of business. Vegetables. This is probably like a quinoa or a whole wheat type of pasta. Fruits, oatmeal, bananas. These are good. They're the whole food, the whole matrix of the food. That's what you want. You want to break them down and processed and all that. Just keep the whole food. The refined carbs are down here. Kind of touched on those. This is what people are eating, and then it's so accessible. They eat it kind of all day long, and then they get hungry real quickly because it doesn't satisfy, and it increases cravings. Whereas the healthy whole foods decrease cravings. So it's really just a process of change in your diet. So risk with refined carbs are all these diseases, and they're all related. Does anyone know what the one word is that connects all of these diseases? It's a real popular buzzword right now. Starts with an I.
Inflammation.
Inflammation. Yeah, you hear inflammation. Well, it's actually a true statement. You go, what is inflammation? Well, it's excessive amount of cortisol and adrenaline in the system. It's release of toxic cytokines from organs. It all happens because you've got too much glucose in your blood. So sugar excess is what causes these diseases. All right, this is the bottom line. So diabetes and dementia, we call it diabetes 3. Because it all has to do with sugar elevated in the blood that the body can no longer handle. Normally insulin picks up the sugar, the glucose, transports it into the liver, into the muscle, gets it out of circulation. Insulin drops again. But that doesn't happen when you're eating refined carbs. You get all these sugar spikes, you're eating often. That insulin keeps getting pumped out of the pancreas to do its job, but the cells finally say, enough, I'm not taking any more glucose in. Live with your own mess. And the glucose starts to rise in the body, and it starts to form fat. And where in the body does that fat like to sit? In the belly. So that's where we get our belly fat, in large part because of all this excessive glucose. So it's all this excess sugar in the blood that coats the blood vessels, and blood vessels feed the brain. So dementia is in part caused by too much sugar. Next. So visceral fat, that's this abdominal fat. It kind of surrounds your organs. And we don't like this fat because it's metabolically active and it secretes cytokines and causes this inflammation in the body. And it causes all these diseases here: heart disease, diabetes, stroke, Alzheimer's, cancer. I mean, this inflammation. So, how do we know if we have visceral fat? Well, you can measure it with a DEXA scan or an in-body bioimpedance. There's ways to measure it. But if you're just a normal person at home wondering about it, you can measure your waist to hip ratio. And this is something you could follow at home or follow in your doctor's office. So your waist, if it's more than 35 inches for a woman, you probably have excessive visceral fat. If your waist to hip ratio is 0.8 or below, that is good. In other words, women have a more slender waist than their hip. As that waist starts to approach the size of and meets and might even exceed the size of their hips, that's visceral fat. So you can recognize it. And in men, they're more A-line. They don't have that waist thing going on. But 0.9 or below would be low visceral fat, and once your waist exceeds the size of your hip, you definitely have more visceral fat than you want. So where does visceral fat come from? Well, excessive carbs and ultra-processed foods. That's what we can control, right? But it also has a genetic variant. If you are predisposed to getting abdominal obesity from your family, if your parents had it, that's a genetic component. It's hard to kick that. But if you eat too much fat, if you're sedentary, and if you have a lot of stress, it will also build up. Next. Oh, and I should mention, those women that have gone through menopause, it's driving visceral fat like crazy, unfortunately. So most of us, as we get into perimenopause and menopause, suddenly realize our genes don't fit anymore. Like, I'm eating and exercising like I always did. What's going on? Well, that's estrogen, lack of. And that's like a cruel joke that God played on us, I don't know. Maybe to make us less attractive and have men more interested in younger to procreate and keep the species going. I don't know, but it's definitely a thing. So your waist enlarges, and what are you going to do about that? Well, can you do sit-ups till the cows come home and get rid of your belly fat? No, it won't work. You can't pinpoint belly fat with sit-ups, I'm afraid, and nor can you with hardcore exercise. It's really, you have to reduce your calories. If you want to lose weight, you have to burn more calories than you take in, period. There's no other way to do that. So if you're eating more healthy foods that are lower in calories and you're exercising, you'll find that balance more readily. We're reducing refined carbs and we're building muscle. So we're eating enough protein and we're resistance training. Maybe the number one type of exercise to get. We'll talk more about that. We're trying to get our stress under control and we're sleeping enough. These are things that help us get our body fat under control. And if we're young enough, we're on hormone replacement therapy as a woman too. Getting estrogen back. Let's talk a little bit about fiber. Fiber is super important. It's another math thing that I'd love you to pay attention to. We talked about the grams of protein. So there's a little bit of math involved as you train your body to recognize what's good protein. Fiber is another math issue. So women want to get at least 25 grams a day and men about 38 grams a day. And we get about half of that in our standard American diet, the SAD diet, standard American diet. So why do we like fiber? Well, probably the number one thing is it helps your diet and your digestion. So fiber comes in soluble and insoluble. That's only important in that they have slightly different roles. They fill you up, so you have satiety when you eat fiber. It smooths out your bowels so that that you pass stool more readily. It feeds your gut microbiome because they're prebiotics, fibers are. So I mean your gut health and the flourishing of those healthy gut microbiota are critically endorsed with fiber. It keeps you full. Let's see, here's some fiber-rich foods. Whole grain bread, veggies, beans and barley fruit are examples. Fruits and veggies are outstanding. And it's also helping maintain blood sugar, it's helping us lose weight, and it's lowering our cholesterol. So if you have high cholesterol, eat more fiber. You might need a statin too. I'm taking a statin, nothing wrong with that, but it'll help to reduce your cholesterol. So here's some sources. Check out these. Fiber is only found in plants. I think I said that earlier. Only plants have fiber. You can see very high content on lentils and peas. It's going to give you a lot of gas if you pour it on too quickly, that's for sure. I'm a victim of that. You just have to take your time, drink plenty of fluid, and keep that under control. But fruits, raspberries are outstanding. So any questions about fiber? You can take psyllium fiber as a supplement.
What about sourdough bread? How does that fit in?
Sourdough bread is a fermented food, and that feeds your gut. So it's a prebiotic, as is fiber. Go ahead. So if you're gonna have a change in your lifestyle, you need to start prepping your meals. So this means you're chopping more, you're cutting things up. I like to spend a couple hours a week, and I've done this for a long, long time, and when I go to work, I take my own lunch. I've been doing that for decades. Basically, you wanna prep your food so that it's easy to make something healthy, rather than coming home and grabbing something unhealthy when you get home. So, you're paying a little bit of money to get fresh produce, you're chopping it up, you're putting it in containers. You can see the variety of colors here, the diversity. Here's a quinoa bowl. I love making quinoa. And then you can mix and match throughout the week and make a very easy kind of meal. And so I'll often make like a grain bowl with some greens in it, and then I'll put some veggies on that, and a little sauce on top of that. And it's delicious. It's really good, and it has everything I want. It has protein and fiber. Next. So put things out on the counter that look good. You can reach when you get home. They look appealing. And label and have things arranged in the fridge so you can just kind of grab something that's healthy and not have to scavenge in the pantry for unhealthy items. So if you don't have a lot of money, it doesn't mean you can't eat healthy. Chickpeas, any canned beans, canned vegetables are outstanding. Really, really good. They're minimally processed. Yes, they're taken off the plant and put in a can, but they preserve most of the vitamins and minerals, and they're really, really good. Frozen vegetables, same thing. They're flash frozen and put away, maintaining most of their nutritional value, and they're not that expensive. Eggs have gone up in price. So if you're eating a good pasture-raised egg, and that's the kind of egg you want to eat, pasture-raised, you might be spending up to 50 cents an egg these days, just because of the increase in price. But eggs are not that expensive as a produce item. Buy your bulk grains. So I buy a big quinoa thing at Costco, or a big farro, or a big buckwheat thing, and that's what I use. It's not that expensive then. Brown rice. And then the tinned fish is cheap. Some of it is really inexpensive. Just a couple bucks for a can of like $1.50 for tuna, in light chunk tuna. Here, frozen fruit, excellent. So you don't have to spend a ton of money. Next. So there's some healthy swaps you can do that you can just think about. Replacing a bad food with a good food is a great training tool to kind of start changing your diet. So fruit juice is basically pulped out, so it's got no fiber left. It's just like sugar water. So all these lovely orange juices, I know my husband loves them, they're not that healthy. You really kind of want to go for water with some fruit in it, or just the fruit itself. energy drinks full of stuff. Coffee's great. Coffee is full of antioxidants. It's a stimulant. It gives you focus. It helps your gut digestion. So if you can tolerate coffee, and it doesn't keep you up at night, so don't drink it too late in the day. Coffee's great, like 3 cups a day, no problem. Once you get into higher, it's probably less healthy. Processed cheese, try mozzarella, more natural. And here, there's all kinds of creative pastas out there now, instead of white pasta. But if you're gonna do white pasta, do Italian white pasta. It's great. It's got semolina durum wheat, 100%. It's slowly dried. It has high protein, high fiber. So there's a reason that you can go to Italy, eat a lot, and not gain as much weight as if you ate that much here in the US. The food is different standards. So Italian pasta is the way to go. And there's some, you can get it in the grocery store. Stay away from this flavored sugar yogurt. It's loaded with sugar. And go for Greek yogurt, plain. You can add some fruit to it. And then white bread versus sprouted. White bread has all the germ removed. It's lacking all the everything's been stripped. So it has very little protein, very little fiber. If you go first, yes.
I was just gonna say, what's your favorite sprouted bread? Is it like Ezekiel or?
I loved Angelica.
Oh.
And then they closed. It like was crushing. So I think David's, they sell, what's that?
Is that a Costco?
They sell it at Costco.
Yeah.
And Ezekiel.
Yeah.
Ezekiel bread
in
is
the
sprouted.
freezers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are the only 2 I know of anymore.
So here you're saying to switch to sprouted bread, but you also said earlier to have whole wheat bread.
Whole
and-
wheat bread is okay, but it's gotta be good.
And not
Otherwise, it's no
multi-grain bread.
better than white bread.
What would you recommend, like what's a favorite or?
What we eat at home is German bread, like the pumpernickel. And we it's the kind, it's shaped like a brick, you could knock someone unconscious with it, you know, that stuff. That's what we eat at home, and you can toast it, or that's what we eat.
Okay.
But for regular wheat toast, I don't know that I have a favorite brand. I'm not that well versed. Maybe somebody else does.
But do you think Ezekiel's, or do you think sprouted's preferred over whole wheat, or doesn't matter?
Yeah, sprouted means the enzymes are released, and they can start breaking down the bread into the components. So it's ideal, but whole wheat is good. And sourdough. If you're gonna eat a white bread, eat white bread sourdough, because it's fermented.
Thank you.
Next. So the Mediterranean diet is still crushing it out there. Still the one that people like the most. And again, it's heavy with veggies and whole grains, fruits, and then a little less olives and nuts, some dairy a couple times a week, fish, seafood, eggs, and then maybe once or twice a week you're eating meat, and occasional sweet, of course. So this has been studied innumerable times and is still the #1 diet out there. There's keto, there's paleo, there's vegan, there's vegetarian diet, there's all kinds, but this is still kind of a balanced diet, and you can see the red wine here. People in the Mediterranean countries, they're drinking their wine and enjoying it. It's in moderation along with healthy eating. Next. So this is like, wow, look at the colors, and this looks so appealing. And there's meat in there, and eggs, and cheese. Next. So there's brand new guidelines for Americans that came out last week, and they have created a stir because they're quite a bit different from the old guidelines. So about 30 years ago, scientists believed that fats were bad for you and you should eat carbs instead. So the whole food industry shifted into carb emphasis and low fat, and that's killing our society.
Funded by specific companies.
Yeah, tell me who.
So-
Yeah.
Well, just.
The industry.
Never mind.
Well, the
Carry on.
government, the
Different track.
government and the food industry were holding
Each other,
hands.
yes.
In part intentionally, for sure, because this is a cheap way to nourish people with grains and carbs. But it had a huge downside, and then the food companies went crazy with it in terms of hyper-palatable, ultra-processed stuff. So RFK, hate a lot of stuff he's doing, do like some initiatives he's involved in, including this one. He is a big meat eater, and he says, eat real food. And this is a mantra that a lot of experts say, yeah, stay away from the boxed and packaged, eat real food. And that does include red meat. Yes, it has saturated fat, and we know by studies that saturated fat in excess leads to high cholesterol and atherosclerotic heart disease. We know that. And yet, if you eat it in moderation, and 10% of your diet should be fat, you've got poultry, cheese, this is okay, milk, and you've got tons of vegetables and fruits. Notice you've got frozen vegetables, canned vegetables here that we talked about, lots of fruits, these canned fish, eggs. So this is a lot of the things we've already talked about. They're real food, and you're gonna get a good balanced diet with this. So I actually do endorse this. This is an increase in protein intake from what the previous guidelines said. And a big statement, get rid of these refined carbs. They're killing our society. So I don't know if they're gonna be able to detach the food industry entirely from government. Because, you know, schools are gonna take on this new pyramid. The military will take it on. There'll be changes. But it's so embedded, this relationship, I don't know how successful they'll be very quickly. So tips for nutrition, we've talked about this. We're eliminating ultra-processed foods or reducing, and then we're eating all these wonderful things. Any questions about this? And like I said, there's lots of diets out there, and some of them really work well for people. Some people love keto, some love paleo. But what's the best diet for you? Everybody's individual. Like my husband can eat tons of cheese and feel very good. I can't do that. Doesn't agree with me as much. So how do you feel? How's your energy? How are your cravings? What's the combo that you have going? Are you pooping regularly? Are you able to have a bowel movement every day? Or at least every other, if that's your thing. But some people, several a day. But if you're not having one at least every 48 hours, you are constipated. And with constipation comes bloating. They go together. Are you sleeping okay? So listen to your body. How's this diet working for me? So, that was nutrition. That's why we're not going to get through all of these. Let's go to exercise, another very important one. So what are the benefits of exercise? Like, wow, right? All-cause mortality is reduced, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, cancers, depression, hip fractures, because muscle health and bone health go together. Dementia, wow. So comes cardiorespiratory, this is the cardio workout, resistance training, flexibility and mobility, using those joints, endurance, and then body composition. We won't talk about that today. So, recommendations by Human Health Services, 150 to 300 minutes per week of moderate intensity. This is 2.5 hours a week, at least. So if you're working out or getting some sort of exercise, it could be walking, of course, 5 days a week, that's gonna hit that mark. Or less than that, a vigorous, and more is better. More is better. So,
Sorry.
how do we know, we'll go back one.
Back? Sorry.
Yeah, please.
Mhm.
How do we know if we're doing moderate? Moderate is, we talk about the talk test. The talk test is, I'm doing this thing and I'm breathing kind of hard, but I could talk to my neighbor if I had to. I could not sing a song. That's the talk test. That's your zone 2. Zone 2, you might hear about zone 2 all the time. Those of you that read about this, zone 2 is a really good level to work to get cardiac benefit. as a main staple in your exercise regimen. So you don't have to recover after it. It's not like, oh, wow, that's the toughest workout. It's just a steady cardiac enhancer. And perceived effort is like 3 to 4, 4 to 5 maybe, working kind of hard. And your heart rate will go up. And these are all examples of moderate intensity exercise that any of us could engage in. Next. Quick word about high intensity interval. This is bang for the buck if you are into this kind of thing. So this is short bursts of vigorous followed by periods of active recovery. So this is like I go for it for a few minutes, then I take it easy for a few. And you do that repeatedly a few times, your body loves that. It really, it's a peak enhancer of fitness. And it's got this hit afterburn. Usually when you exercise, you've got a couple hours where your metabolism's up. After a HIIT workout, you've got a day or two where your metabolism's up. That's how effective it is. And you can do it at home, you can use your body weight, you can use all kinds of exercise. So it's very, very good. This is just an example. Japanese walking, very popular in Japan. They'll warm up and then they'll walk really fast for about 3 minutes. They're breathing kind of hard. They can't sing, so it's that zone 2. And then they're slowing down again, and then they repeat that. That's the Japanese walking method, and they do that 4 to 5 days a week. And it takes a half hour, which is fairly time efficient. But you could be even more efficient at home. You could do 30 seconds each of like squats or marching or jogging or jumping jacks, and then rest for a minute and do it again a couple of times. Then you've done your own HIIT at home in much shorter time. Very convenient. And these 1-minute exercise snacks. So you could be at your workplace. So my residents don't always love this, but it's a joke. We're on the 3rd floor at my hospital, and we see patients on the 11th floor. So we walk. We take the stairs. I would say, you don't have to come with me if you don't want, but we're taking the stairs, and everyone's all chatty at the beginning. Oh, Dr. Madsen. And then it gets kind of quiet for the middle, and then at the top, they're all panting. So this is how it is. So you're pushing yourself with these exercise snacks. It's like a HIIT. Next. So these are all things you can do at home: squatting, jumping, running up and down the stairs. Next. So want to mention a little thing about muscle. It's a metabolic organ. Super important. It's where all your glucose goes, or most of your glucose goes for storage. So the more muscle you have, the more you can absorb that glucose. It's not floating around in your blood creating havoc. It's a longevity component of your body. The more muscle you have, the better. So don't just do a little toning. Build your muscle with progressive weight. It's closely linked to bone health. So weak bones, weak muscle, and vice versa. So unfortunately, this is reality for women down here in red and for men in blue. We've got great muscle, men more because of their testosterone. And then starting at about age 30, we're starting to, especially by 40, we're really starting to lose muscle mass, 3 to 8% a decade. It's kind of scary. And then it gets steeper and steeper. And by the time we're 80, that muscle's just dropping off. It's really how we have to combat that actively, or we're just going to be what we call sarcopenic, muscle deficient, and frail. So, got to work at it. Next. So here's a guy who's kind of frail, and we don't want this, because why? We're going to fall and get a fracture. What happens if you get a hip fracture? Well, 30% of you will die that year. Of the remaining, 50% will never get back to baseline function. That's very sad statistics. We see a lot of these in my workplace. The average age is about 82. Women more than men, because we suffer more from osteoporosis than men. But men get osteoporotic too, especially if they're sedentary and they're not eating their protein. So this is a thing as we get older. Next. So this is like the crown type of exercise, this resistance training. You wanna do this a couple times a week. You can do push-ups on your knees, nothing wrong with that. You get nice and low, great upper body workout. These are isometric exercises. We're not moving the joint, but we're holding and really increasing muscle tone. And then here, they're doing squats. They're working their large muscle groups here in the glutes and hamstrings and quads. And you can see this is not a small amount of weight she's got on her shoulders. That's at least, what do you think that is, Chris? 15? That's a 15er. So she's lifting 30 pounds of weight there with each squat. Resistance band. So this is a really important part to build muscle. Next. Flexibility. I try to stretch every morning because if I don't, I get pretty stiff up in my shoulders. So I'm doing the thread the needle and a variety of these yoga poses just to open up my body. As we get older, our joints get less lubricated and we're stiffer, can't do the things, so just kind of wake everything up. And sorry, back for just a sec. Stretch your hamstrings relentlessly. I love that saying. We get so tight in that posterior chain, just stretch those hamstrings a couple times a day. Next. Okay, walking matters. So this was sort of an arbitrary number that when it was first introduced, the 10,000 steps a day, but they've done plenty of studies on it. It's really a good number. So the average American takes about 4,500 steps a day. And if all you have to do is increase to 7,000 and you've got a huge health benefit, and all the way up to 10,000, look at this benefit, drops off a little after that, and it helps reduce chronic disease. So important. Next. So I love this slide because it basically says, here you're an independent person above this dotted line, and here you're a dependent person relying on others. Physical fitness on the y-axis, age on the x-axis. You can see if you're a sedentary individual, by the time you're in your 70s, you're losing your independence. And you might have to really rely on others to take care of you. You can't live alone. You can't do activities that you wish you could. Whereas if you've been trained and you've got some muscle on your bones, you can be independent even at age 90, live in your own home and carry your own groceries and go for walks and travel, all those things. You can't do that if you're a sedentary person. So, Peter Attia, a popular physician, has a podcast and has written books, talks about this. The last decade of your life, the marginal decade, he calls it. What do you want to be able to do that decade? Do you want to travel? Do you want to get up off the floor by yourself? Do you want to be able to go for a walk, like at 2 miles an hour with your partner? If you want to do these things, you have to work at it. They're not free. How about your brain? Do you want to be able to have a great conversation with a young person? Do you want to learn new things? Well, you got to work at it. Next. We are 10 after 12.
Okay.
Should we stop? I think we've absorbed a lot of information.
We have.
So we just talked about 2 pillars, but that's how it goes. I would love questions if anyone has anything that either I might know or someone else in the group might know. And if you don't have questions, then I guess it was really clear.
What do you think about organic?
What's that?
Organic, as far as.
I'm sorry?
Organic.
Organic, oh, organic. Well, yes, that's the whole glyphosate debate, Roundup, which is ubiquitous. There's no way getting around exposure to it at this point. Organic is better, for sure. It's also expensive. And a lot of there's the dirty 15, and the clean 15, the dirty dozen. The dirty dozen, yeah. So vegetables and fruits that have a really thin outer coating, like strawberries, those are best bought organic. And apples, do I do that? Not necessarily, because they're so expensive. I mean, I'm not gonna spend $8 for a little collection of apples, I don't know. But yes, they're better for you. A lot of fruits you don't need to get organic, like bananas and avocados, neutral. So if you're willing to spend the money, yes, organic is better. It is an uphill battle to have all the pesticides out of our food system.
But with that, canned and pasta, because with the Parkinson's that I work with, we tie it right back to, like, canned needs to be organic and pasta needs to be organic.
I see.
Like, bonza pasta is awful for you because of that. So the chickpea pasta that's not organic, it's very high.
So that will make a
High in
Parkinson's.
glyphosate?
Yes, very high in it. So just be aware, like, when you, like, think about, like, those, that's organic instead of the inorganic.
Okay.
And that's
So-
from neurologists, because I run a Parkinson's program here for us. So that's coming from neurologists.
So Italian pasta's the way to go.
Yeah, right?
That kind of eliminates that problem.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, organic, so canned stuff too, like chickpeas, make sure you buy organic. It's worth it.
What is the highest of
Roundup.
Roundup is a
Oh, I know what it is,
chemical. Oh,
Yeah.
How do we know that?
oh, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
No, but I mean,
I understand.
this has been
There's, like,
studied, why
no,
is
it's
it
like,
not, this should be like a pretty major news
I
story.
think if you do like Epica, like things on the show.
So it kind of counters the whole chickpea pasta thing. It's like-
Correct, I
It's a
mean,
popular brand.
there's a chickpea that's organic.
I know, but
Where
that
do you
one's
get it?
cheap and everybody buys it. It's
I
sort of
know,
like-
I know, that's, I know.
It's just interesting,
I
yeah.
know, right. And organic chickpeas are much more expensive, but it's worth it.
With the oils, your avocado and olive oil, do you, I know they're both good, but I've heard like heating, when you're working with cooking and like heating things, that avocado is better. Is there any truth to that?
Avocado oil has a higher smoke point, so
Okay.
if you're doing really, really hot searing, it might be the better item, but
Okay.
extra virgin olive oil, slightly better than regular olive oil, but
Okay.
not, regular olive oil is also good.
Okay.
You can cook with that
that?
as well.
Okay.
It's probably ideal on salads and things, but you can
Mm.
definitely cook with it. So
Okay.
I think if you're gonna choose one, olive oil is the way to go.
Thank you.
Have you ever tried those substances that you can clean your fruits or vegetables to get stuff off?
Like sodium
Like your dirty
hydroxide.
dozen, if you have your dirty dozen, you know, you can use these spray products. I have found that they kind of make the fruit taste different. So I don't know if I'm not getting everything off, but is there a good one out there versus
I don't
not?
have any experience in
Okay.
that, to be honest.
I've only used white vinegar.
Yeah.
I do soaks with white vinegar and water, so a very small amount, right, of what you don't need
Sometimes
much.
that's salt, yeah.
Yep, and then in a big bowl of water, and then I put my berries or whatever in there and let them soak.
I do my organic berries with that.
Do-
So you let them
Yep.
soak for a while?
Couple minutes, few minutes, and then a good rinse of them after.
And they taste good?
Yeah, very good. I think
Supposed
so.
to get the parasites out if there's any.
Yeah.
Vinegar makes them want to come out.
No, I
again.
see. No, I didn't know
Mhm,
that.
Yeah. I think they taste fine too. I don't
Mine
taste
taste fine,
any
too, yeah.
like funky.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
You don't taste the vinegar.
For nuts,
No.
do you think
Yeah, wash it off.
almonds, walnuts, cashews are good choices?
Yes.
Or is there a better choice?
I think walnuts are the king. However, they're all good. I eat almonds every day. And I buy big bags of them at Costco. Non-roasted, just regular, plain. I think pistachio, they're all good. They're all good. Even peanuts are okay. Although they're probably lowest on the list among all the nuts.
Does the quinoa need to be organic?
What?
Does the quinoa need to be organic? We talked about the chickpeas.
This organic question is a tough one for me. The one I buy at Costco is organic. What do you know about that?
That's the same exact thing. So the a neurologist will tell you, yes, it needs to be organic.
For nerve function in a sensitive.
Because we don't know how people are getting
Yeah.
Parkinson's and stuff like that. We don't know why certain people get it, so just keep it out of your intake, right? I mean, I know I can't undo the Pop-Tarts I ate at 10 years old.
No, we all ate those.
Mm, yeah.
And nuts if they were out. and-
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Mhm.
Still. It's hard to resist those.